The morning alarm rang at 6 sharp on the bridge of the U.S. Defiant. Commander Jake Morrison rolled his shoulders and stretched his neck. 3 weeks of patrol duty in the Outer Rim had been quiet, too quiet for his liking. He preferred action. To the endless void of space. "Commander, we have an incoming message," called out Lieutenant Amy Foster from the communications station. Her voice carried a note of urgency that made Morrison turn around quickly. "Put it through," Morrison said, walking to the main screen. The message crackled with static. The voice that came through was panicked and broken. "This is Colony Director Paul Watson on Kepler 442b. We have a massive alien fleet approaching our system. They are demanding our immediate surrender. We count over 200 ships. Please send help immediately." Morrison felt his stomach drop. Kepler 442b was a mining colony with 15,000 people. Men, women, and children who had gone to the edge of human space to build a new life. They had basic defenses, but nothing that could stand against a fleet of that size. "Lieutenant Foster, get me fleet command immediately," Morrison ordered, "and signal the rest of our battle group. We are changing course for Kepler 442b right now." "Sir, we are 3 days away at maximum speed," reported his navigation officer, Lieutenant Carl Brooks. "By the time we get there, ... "I know," Morrison said grimly, "but we have to try." The U.S. Defiant was part of a small patrol group. 5 ships in total, designed to handle pirates and smugglers. They were not equipped to fight a fleet of 200 alien vessels, but Morrison knew they would try anyway. That was what humans did. They protected their own. The next message from Kepler 442b came 18 hours later. Director Watson's voice was strained and desperate. "The aliens have given us 12 hours to surrender. They say they will take prisoners, but will not harm us if we comply. We are evacuating the civilians to the underground shelters. Please hurry." Morrison pushed his ship harder. The engines ran at 110% capacity. The engineering team worked around the clock to keep everything running. But space was vast, and even at their maximum speed, they were still 2 days away. The final message arrived 26 hours after the first. This time, it was not Director Watson speaking. The voice was mechanical, translated by some alien. "Device. Human colony has been secured. All survivors have been taken for processing. Your people are now property of the Zephyrian Empire. Do not attempt rescue. You will only delay the inevitable." Morrison stared at the screen in silence. Around him, the bridge crew sat frozen. 15,000 people. Gone. Taken by aliens, who treated humans like cattle to be herded and owned. "Sir," Lieutenant Foster said quietly, "we are receiving multiple distress signals from other colonies. The aliens are hitting multiple targets at once." Morrison closed his eyes and took a deep breath. When he opened them, they were hard as steel. "Signal Fleet Command. Tell them we need every available ship. And Lieutenant, send a message to all human colonies and ships in the sector. Tell them what happened here. Tell them the aliens have taken our people prisoner." The U.S. Defiant arrived at Kepler 442b 36 hours too late. The system was empty except for debris. The alien fleet had vanished, leaving behind only wreckage and silence. Morrison ordered a full scan of the area. "Commander, we are detecting life pods," reported Lieutenant Brooks. 12 pods all showing life signs. Morrison felt a spark of hope. "Bring them aboard immediately." The survivors were mining engineers who had been working in the asteroid belt when the attack began. They had hidden in the rocks and watched everything happen. Their leader, a tough woman named Linda Gray, told Morrison what they had seen. "The aliens did not destroy the colony," she said, her voice shaking. "They used some kind of energy weapon that made everyone fall asleep. And they landed massive ships and loaded everyone onto them. Men, women, children, even the babies, they took them all. Morrison felt his anger growing. Did you see which direction they went? They headed toward the galactic core, Linda replied. I counted their ships. 237 vessels. They were organized, Commander. This was not their first time doing this. Morrison nodded grimly. He had suspected as much. No one attacked 15 human colonies at once without planning and experience. These aliens had been taking prisoners for a long time. They just had not taken humans before. Lieutenant Foster, get me Captain Lisa Carter on the U's retribution. Morrison ordered. And patch me through to all ships in the sector. It is time to send a message to Fleet Command. Captain Carter's face appeared on the screen. She was a veteran of the Centauri border wars, known for her tactical brilliance and fierce loyalty to her crew. Jake, I heard about Kepler 442b. How bad is it? 15,000 people taken prisoner by aliens calling themselves the Zephyrian? Empire, Morrison replied. They hit multiple colonies simultaneously. This was planned and coordinated. Carter's expression grew cold. What are their demands? None. They did not contact us for negotiation. They just took our people and left. According to the survivors, they treat prisoners like property to be processed. Processed, Carter repeated, her voice flat. They have no idea what they have just done, Morrison nodded. Lisa, we need to gather every ship we can find. The aliens think they can take humans prisoner and face no consequences. They are about to learn why human ships do not take prisoners. Because we never leave anyone behind, Carter finished. I will start gathering ships immediately. How many do you think we need? All of them, Morrison said. Every last ship in the human fleet. The aliens want to play the prisoner game. Let us show them how humans play it. Over the next 48 hours, Morrison watched as human ships began arriving in the system. First came the patrol vessels and system defense ships. Then the heavy, cruisers and battleships. Finally, the massive dreadnoughts that normally protected the core worlds. Admiral Ryan Cooper arrived aboard the U.S. Vendetta, bringing with him the entire Third Fleet. He was a legend in the human Navy, a man who had never lost a battle and never left a comrade behind. His presence meant that High Command was taking this seriously. Commander Morrison, Cooper said as he materialized on the bridge via hologram, you have done good work gathering intelligence. What do we know about these Zephyrians? They are an empire, sir. They have been taking prisoners from other species for centuries. They seem to believe that humans will negotiate for the return of our people. Cooper's smile was cold and dangerous. Then they understand nothing about humans. We do not negotiate with kidnappers. We do not pay ransoms. We do not make deals with those who take our people. What are your orders, sir? Simple, Commander. We are going to find every human prisoner in Zephyrian space. We are going to bring them home. And we are going to make sure that no alien species ever makes the mistake of taking human prisoners again. Morrison felt a surge of pride and anticipation. The aliens had made a terrible mistake. They had awakened something in humanity that had been sleeping since the end of the last war. They had reminded humans what they were capable of when their families were threatened. Sir, Lieutenant Foster called out, we are receiving a transmission from the Zephyrian Empire. They want to negotiate. Cooper's laugh was harsh. Tell them we do not negotiate with child thieves. Tell them they have 72 hours to return. Every human prisoner to neutral space. After that, we begin hunting them. Morrison watched as the alien transmission ended. The Zephyrians had tried to make contact, probably expecting humans to behave like the other species they had conquered. They would learn soon enough that humans were different. They would learn why human ships took no prisoners. The hunt was about to begin. High Admiral Kethver stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Dominant Claw, watching the tactical display with satisfaction. 300 ships of the Zephyrian Empire moved in perfect formation toward the Tau Ceti system. The human response had been predictable and weak. "Status report," Kethver commanded, his voice carrying the authority of centuries of conquest. "Sir, we have detected 57 human vessels in defensive positions around Tau Ceti Prime," reported his tactical officer, Sub-Commander Vextar. "They appear to be preparing for a traditional defensive engagement." Kethver felt pleased. The humans were responding exactly as 47 other species had before them. They would position their ships to protect their civilian population, fight bravely but futilely, and then surrender when the casualties became too high. It was the same pattern every time. "What is the status of our human prisoners?" Kethver asked. "All 15,000 are secure in the labor ships," Vextar replied. "They are being processed according to standard protocol. The healthy adults will be sent to the work camps. The skilled ones will be kept for technical support. The children will be raised as servants." "Excellent. The humans will see their people on the viewing screens during the battle. When they realize their loved ones are watching, they will surrender quickly to avoid causing them pain." Kethver had used this tactic many times before. Nothing broke the fighting spirit of a species faster than seeing their families in chains. The humans would fold within hours, just like all the others. The human fleet was commanded by Admiral Ryan Cooper aboard the UES Vendetta. Intelligence reports suggested he was experienced but conventional in his tactics. The Zephyrian analysis predicted he would attempt a layered defense, falling back to protect the civilian population when the outer defenses failed. "Sir, the humans are broadcasting on all frequencies," reported the communications officer. "Let us hear what they have to say," Kethver said with amusement. "Perhaps they are ready to surrender already." Admiral Cooper's voice filled the bridge, calm and controlled. "This is Admiral Cooper of the United Earth Defense Fleet. You have taken our people prisoner. You have made a grave mistake. We do not negotiate with kidnappers. We do not pay ransoms. We do not make deals with those who steal our families. You have 72 hours to return every human prisoner to neutral space. After that, we will come for them." Kethver laughed, a sound that echoed through the bridge. "They think they can threaten us with 57 ships? We have conquered species with fleets 10 times their size." "Sir, should we respond to their ultimatum?" asked Vextar. "No, let them wait. When they see their people in our custody, they will beg for mercy. Begin the standard assault pattern. Target their heavy ships first, but do not destroy them completely. We want prisoners, not wreckage." The battle began at 0800 hours, Galactic Standard Time. The Zephyrian fleet advanced in the classic hammer formation, with heavy battle cruisers at the front and lighter vessels providing support. They had used this formation successfully for 3 centuries. The human response was immediate and savage. Instead of falling back in a defensive pattern, the human ships charged forward to meet the Zephyrian advance. The UE's Hammer, a heavy cruiser, led the attack directly into the center of the alien formation. "Sir, the humans are not behaving according to standard defensive doctrine," Vextar reported, confusion evident in his voice. "They are trying to be brave," Kethver replied dismissively. "Let them come. We will capture more ships this way." The first exchange of fire was devastating. The Zephyrians had superior numbers and firepower, but the humans fought with a desperation that surprised them. The U's hammer took heavy damage, but continued firing even as its hull was torn apart. "Sir, the human ship is not surrendering," Vextar said. "They are continuing to fight despite critical damage." "Then we will board them and take the crew prisoner," Kethvar ordered. "Send the assault shuttles." What happened next would be remembered throughout the galaxy for generations. The UE's Hammer, its engines destroyed and life support failing, did not surrender. Instead, Captain Pete Davis ordered his ship to ram the Zephyrian dreadnought Void Striker. The collision destroyed both ships instantly. 800 Zephyrian crew members died in the explosion, along with 200 humans. It was the first time in Zephyrian history that an enemy had chosen mutual destruction over capture. "What happened?" Kethver demanded, staring at the expanding cloud of debris where two massive warships had been moments before. "Sir, the human ship deliberately collided with the Void Striker," Nexstar reported, his voice shaking. "They chose to die rather than be taken prisoner." Kethver felt his first moment of doubt. In 3 centuries of conquest, no enemy had ever chosen death over capture. The thought was so alien to Zephyrian, understanding that he could barely process it. "It was a desperate act," he said finally. "They are running out of options. Continue the attack." But the humans were not running out of options. They were just getting started. The UES Retribution, commanded by Captain Lisa Carter, broke through the Zephyrian left flank and began attacking the lighter support vessels. Instead of trying to disable them for capture, she targeted their engines and life support systems. "Sir, the human ship is destroying our vessels completely," Nexstar reported. "They are not attempting to capture prisoners." "Then we will do the same to them," Kethver snarled. "All ships switch to maximum firepower. Destroy the human vessels." But changing tactics mid-battle was harder than Kethver had expected. The Zephyrian ships were designed and trained for capture operations. Their weapons were calibrated for disabling enemy vessels, not destroying them. The humans, on the other hand, seemed to have no interest in taking prisoners at all. The battle raged for 6 hours. Ship after ship was destroyed on both sides. The Zephyrians, despite their superior numbers, found themselves losing more vessels than they gained. The humans fought with a fury that defied all military logic. Captain Diana Walsh of the UES Fury demonstrated the human approach to warfare when her ship was surrounded by 3 Zephyrian cruisers. Instead of surrendering, she ordered her crew to overload the reactor and ram the nearest enemy vessel. The explosion took out all 4 ships. "Sir, we have lost 89 ships," Nexstar reported. "The humans have lost 31, but they show no signs of surrender." Kethver could not understand it. By all military doctrine, the humans should have surrendered hours ago. Their casualties were mounting, their position was hopeless, and they were facing overwhelming odds. Yet they continued to fight. "Show them their prisoners," Kethver ordered. "Broadcast images of their people in our custody. That will break their will." A transmission went out on all frequencies. Images of human prisoners in Zephyrian custody filled the screens of every human ship. Men, women, and children in chains, being herded into work camps like animals. Kethver expected the humans to immediately request negotiations. Instead, the opposite happened. The human attack became even more vicious. Admiral Cooper's voice filled the communication channels, cold as the void of space. "You have just sealed your fate. Every human in this fleet has now seen what you do to our people. We will not stop until every one of you is dead." The final phase of the battle was unlike anything in Zephyrian military history. The humans stopped trying to preserve their own ships and focused entirely on destroying the enemy. The U's vendetta. Admiral Cooper's flagship was badly damaged, but continued fighting. "Sir, we should withdraw," Nexstar suggested. "We have accomplished our primary mission. We have the prisoners." "No," Kethver said. "We cannot let them think they have won. Continue the attack." But the battle was already lost. The humans had demonstrated something that the Zephyrians could not understand or counter. They valued their people more than their own lives. They would rather die than leave their families in enemy hands. The U.E.'s Defiant, the last human ship still fighting, was surrounded by 20 Zephyrian vessels. Commander Jake Morrison could have surrendered and saved his crew. Instead, he opened communications with the enemy fleet. "This is Commander Morrison of the United Earth Defense Fleet. You wanted to know how humans fight. Now you know. We do not take prisoners because we do not leave our people behind. Remember this when more human ships come for you." The U.E.'s Defiant exploded in a brilliant flash of light, taking 3 Zephyrian ships with it. The battle was over, but Kethfer knew that the war had just begun. "Sir, we have lost 89 ships," Vextar reported. "The humans lost 57, but they never surrendered. Not one of them." Kethfer stared at the debris field where the human fleet had made its final stand. For the first time in his long career, he felt something he had never experienced before: fear. The humans had shown him something terrifying. They had shown him what it meant to fight for something more important than your own life. "Send a message to High Command," he ordered. "Tell them we may have made a mistake. Tell them the humans are not like other species. They do not surrender. They do not negotiate. They fight until they die." "What are your orders, sir?" Kethfer looked at the tactical display, showing the massive human fleet that was already gathering at the edge of the system. More ships were arriving every hour. The humans were not retreating. They were preparing for war. "We run," he said quietly. "We run The news of the Tau Ceti battle spread across human space like wildfire. Every colony, every ship, every human settlement received the same message. The Zephyrian Empire had taken 15,000 human prisoners, and the fleet was going to bring them home. Captain Diana Walsh received her orders while patrolling the Vega sector. The message was simple and direct: locate and liberate all human prisoners. Rules of engagement: unrestricted. Signed, Fleet Admiral Robert Hayes. Diana read the orders twice. Unrestricted rules of engagement meant no limits on weapons, no concern for alien casualties, and no obligation to follow galactic warfare conventions. It was the first time in 50 years that the human fleet had been given such orders. "Captain," called out Lieutenant Ben Rodriguez from the tactical station, "we are receiving priority intelligence from Fleet Command. They have located the prisoners." Diana turned to face the main screen. The intelligence briefing showed 3 separate locations where human prisoners were being held. The first was Zerion Prime, the capital world of the Zephyrian Empire. The second was Kalos Station, a massive orbital facility in the Rigel system. The third was a mobile prison fleet that moved constantly through Zephyrian space. "The prisoners are not just being held," continued the briefing officer, Commander Alex Turner. "They are being used for forced labor, medical experiments, and entertainment. The Zephyrians have been broadcasting gladiatorial combats featuring human prisoners." Diana felt her blood run cold. The aliens were not just keeping their people as prisoners. They were torturing them, experimenting on them, and forcing them to fight for alien amusement. The rage that built in her chest was matched by every other human who heard the briefing. "Captain," Rodriguez said quietly, "my brother was on Kepler 442b. He was visiting the mining facility when the attack happened." "Then we will bring him home," Diana replied. "All of them. Every last one." The rescue operation began immediately. 3 separate task forces were assembled, each commanded by officers who had personal connections to the prisoners. Captain Pete Johnson led the assault on Zerion Prime. His daughter, Anna, had been a school teacher on Kepler 442b. Commander Sarah Blake took command of the Kalos Station mission. Her husband had been the colony's chief engineer. Diana was assigned to hunt down the mobile prison fleet. It was the most dangerous mission because the Zephyrians had learned to keep their most valuable prisoners constantly moving. The fleet never stayed in one system for more than a few days, making it almost impossible to track. "Captain, we have a lead on the prison fleet," reported Lieutenant Carl Brooks from the navigation station. Long-range sensors detected a large convoy moving through the Altair system. Energy signatures match Zephyrian prison ships. Set course for Altair, Diana ordered. Maximum speed, and signal the rest of our task force. Today, we start bringing our people home. The human task force consisted of 20 ships, including the heavy cruiser U.E.'s Vengeance and the destroyer U.E.'s Fury. They were all veteran ships, with experienced crews who had fought in the border wars. More importantly, they were all volunteers who had requested assignment to the rescue mission. The mobile prison fleet was commanded by Zephyrian Admiral Morthake, a cruel officer who specialized in breaking the spirits of captured enemies. He had been put in charge of the human prisoners because of his reputation for turning proud warriors into submissive slaves. "Sir, we are detecting human ships approaching," reported his tactical officer. 20 vessels, moving at high speed. Morthake was not concerned. His fleet consisted of 35 ships, including several heavy battle cruisers. The humans were outnumbered and outgunned. Let them come. We will capture more prisoners for the experiments. What Morthake did not understand was that the humans were not coming to fight a conventional battle. They were coming to rescue their people, and they would use any means necessary to succeed. The battle began when the human ships were still at extreme range. Instead of closing for a traditional engagement, they launched every missile they had at the prison ships. The Zephyrians were caught completely off guard. "Sir, the humans are targeting our prison vessels," the tactical officer reported. "They are trying to destroy the ships containing their own people." "Impossible," Morthake replied. "No species would risk killing their own prisoners." But the humans were not trying to destroy the prison ships. They were targeting the engines and weapons. Systems with surgical precision. Every missile had been programmed to disable rather than destroy. The human fleet wanted the prison ships intact so they could rescue the prisoners inside. The U.E.'s Vengeance, Diana's flagship, broke through the Zephyrian defensive line and began attacking the prison ships directly. Her tactical officer, Lieutenant Amy Foster, coordinated the assault with deadly efficiency. "Target their engine cores," Diana ordered. "Disable them. Do not destroy them. Our people are on those ships." The Zephyrian prison fleet found itself in an impossible position. They could not use their heavy weapons without risking damage to their own vessels. The human ships were too close to the prison ships for effective bombardment, and the humans were fighting with a precision and determination that Morthake had never encountered. "Sir, we should withdraw," suggested his tactical officer. "We can escape with the prisoners intact." "No," Morthake snarled. "We will not run from these animals. Order all ships to ram the human vessels. If we must die, we take them with us." But the Zephyrian crews were not prepared for suicide attacks. They had been trained for conquest and domination, not desperate last stands. When the order came to ram the human ships, several Zephyrian vessels refused to comply. The U.E.'s Fury, commanded by Captain Greg Adams, demonstrated the difference between human and Zephyrian determination. When 3 Zephyrian cruisers tried to ram his ship, he maneuvered between them and the prison ships, using his own vessel as a shield. "All crew, brace for impact," Adams announced over the ship's communication system. "We are going to save our people, even if it kills us." Collision destroyed the U.E.'s Fury and 2 Zephyrian cruisers, but it also protected the prison ships long enough for the other human vessels to complete their mission. Adams and his crew died heroes, remembered forever as the ones who gave their lives to save their people. The battle lasted 4 hours. When it ended, the Zephyrian prison fleet was scattered and broken. 18 prison ships had been captured intact, along with their precious human cargo. The cost had been heavy. The human task force lost 8 ships and nearly 2,000 crew members. Diana walked through the corridors of the first liberated prison ship, seeing the conditions where her people had been held. The prisoners were thin and weak, but alive. They had been forced to work in brutal conditions, given barely enough food to survive, and subjected to medical experiments that violated every law of civilized warfare. "Captain," called out a weak voice from one of the cells, "are you real? Are we really going home?" Diana knelt beside the young woman who had spoken. She was barely 20 years old, with the haunted eyes of someone who had seen too much suffering. "Yes, we are real. And yes, you are going home. What is your name?" "Linda Gray. I was a mining engineer on Kepler 442b. They made us fight each other for their entertainment. They said humans were naturally violent and would kill each other for food." Diana felt her anger growing. "You will never have to fight again. I promise you that. We are going to make sure that no human ever suffers like this again." The rescue of the mobile prison fleet was just the beginning. Similar operations were taking place across the galaxy as human task forces hunted down every facility that held human prisoners. The assault on Xerion Prime lasted 3 days and ended with the complete destruction of the Zephyrian capital. The attack on Kalos Station was over in 6 hours, with no alien survivors. The human fleet had abandoned all pretense of following galactic warfare conventions. Every Zephyrian facility that had housed human prisoners was utterly destroyed. Every alien who had participated in the capture and abuse of humans was hunted down and eliminated. "Captain," Rodriguez reported from the tactical station, "we are receiving reports from the other task forces. Captain Johnson has liberated Xerion Prime. 8,000 prisoners recovered. Commander Blake has taken Kalos Station. 4,000 prisoners recovered. We have rescued 3,000 from the mobile fleet." Diana nodded with satisfaction. "That is still 15,000 prisoners unaccounted for. Keep searching. We do not stop until every human is home." The search continued for weeks. Human ships combed through every system in Zephyrian space, looking for hidden facilities and secret prisons. They found work camps on remote asteroids, experimental facilities on uninhabited worlds, and gladiatorial arenas on alien pleasure planets. Each discovery made the human fleet more determined. Each rescued prisoner told stories of cruelty and abuse that hardened the hearts of their rescuers. The humans were no longer just fighting a war. They were conducting a crusade to eliminate every trace of the alien slave trade. The final rescue took place on a small moon in the Procyon system. Intelligence reports suggested that the Zephyrians were holding a group of human children in a facility designed to train them as servants. The mission was led by Captain Mark Taylor of the UES Relentless. "Sir, we have located the facility," reported his Tactica. The emergency session of the Galactic Council was called to order on the neutral station of Harmony Prime. Representatives from 200 species gathered in the Great Chamber, their faces showing fear and confusion. The topic of discussion was simple: what to do about the humans. Ambassador Tila Nara of the Andromedan Collective stood at the central podium, her 4 arms gesturing to the massive display screen behind her. The screen showed the aftermath of human rescue operations. Across the galaxy, entire star systems had been sterilized. Whole civilizations had been reduced to rubble. "Honorable delegates," Tila Nara began, her voice carrying the weight of centuries of diplomatic experience, "we face an unprecedented crisis. The human species has violated every law of galactic warfare. They have committed genocide against the Zephyrian Empire. They have destroyed civilian populations. They have shown no mercy to those who surrender." The chamber erupted in nervous chatter. Species that had never feared anything now spoke in worried whispers about the human threat. The humans had become something new in the galaxy, a force that could not be reasoned with, negotiated with, or defeated through conventional means. "The evidence is overwhelming," Telenara continued. 17 Zephyrian worlds have been completely destroyed. Not conquered, destroyed. The humans left no survivors, no infrastructure, no possibility of rebuilding. They turned inhabited planets into dead rocks floating in space. General Morthek, the surviving Zephyrian representative, stepped forward. His once proud uniform was tattered and stained. His species had ruled 47 star systems just months before. Now they were refugees, hiding in the outer rim with what remained of their fleet. The humans are monsters, Morthek declared, his voice shaking with rage and fear. We followed standard galactic protocol. We took prisoners according to established convention. We treated them according to the rules of war. How were we supposed to know they would react like this? Perhaps, interrupted a calm voice from the back of the chamber, you should have asked them first. All eyes turned to Admiral Helen Parker, the human representative. She walked slowly to the center of the chamber, her expression neutral but her eyes as cold as the void between stars. She was a small woman, barely 5 feet tall, but her presence filled the room. Admiral Parker, Tielanara said carefully, the Council has called this session to address the actions of your species. The destruction you have caused violates every principle of civilized warfare. Civilized warfare, Parker repeated, her voice carrying just a hint of mockery. You speak of civilization while defending the right to enslave other species. You call it convention to take prisoners for forced labor and medical experiments. You treat the trafficking of sentient beings as acceptable military doctrine. The chamber fell silent. Parker's words carried an uncomfortable truth that none of the delegates wanted to acknowledge. The practice of taking prisoners for slavery had been standard procedure for millennia. It was so common that most species considered it natural. The Galactic Council established these conventions for good reason, Tielanara argued. Without agreed-upon rules of warfare, conflicts would be far more destructive. More destructive than what we have done to the Zephyrians, Parker asked. More destructive than turning an entire empire into cosmic dust? Perhaps you should reconsider your conventions. General Morthek stepped forward again, his anger overwhelming his fear. You murdered billions of innocent civilians. You destroyed entire ecosystems. You committed crimes against the very concept of life itself. Parker turned to face him directly. We destroyed everyone who had taken our people prisoner. We eliminated every facility that had housed human captives. We erased every trace of the slave trade that your empire built on the suffering of others. If you consider that murder, then we are guilty as charged. But the civilians, Morthek protested. The children, the elderly, the ones who had nothing to do with the military operations. Did you consider our civilians when you attacked our colonies? Parker asked. Did you spare our children when you loaded them onto your prison ships? Did you show mercy to our elderly when you forced them into your work camps? The chamber remained silent. Morthek had no answer, because there was no answer. The Zephyrians had taken everyone, men, women, children, elderly, sick, healthy. They had made no distinction between military and civilian targets. The human response was proportional to the crime, Parker continued. You took our entire population. We eliminated your entire civilization. You started a war of extinction. We finished it. Ambassador Krolvus of the Draconian Empire stood up, his massive frame towering over the other delegates. The Draconians were known throughout the galaxy as fierce warriors who had never backed down from a fight. His presence commanded attention. Admiral Parker, Krolvus rumbled, his voice like distant thunder. Your species has upset the balance of power in the galaxy. Other civilizations are now afraid to engage in normal military operations because they fear human retaliation. Good, Parker replied simply. Fear will keep them from taking our people. But at what cost? Krolvus demanded. The Draconian Empire has used human prisoners in our gladiatorial arenas for decades. It is part of our culture, our tradition. Are you saying we must abandon our ways because of human sensitivities? Parker's expression did not change, but every human in the chamber felt the temperature drop. The Draconian Empire has human gladiators? Of course, Krelvis said proudly. We have captured over 3,000 humans in various border conflicts. They provide excellent entertainment in our combat arenas. Some have even achieved great honor by dying well in front of our crowds. 3,000, Parker repeated slowly. You have 3,000 human prisoners being forced to fight for your entertainment. They are prisoners of war, Krelvis protested, taken in legitimate military conflicts. We are within our rights according to galactic law. Parker nodded, thoughtfully. Thank you for that information, Ambassador. You have been very helpful. The Draconian delegate suddenly realized he had made a terrible mistake. The human admiral was not negotiating or discussing policy. She was gathering intelligence. Her calm demeanor was not diplomacy. It was the patience of a predator sizing up its prey. Now wait, Krelvis said, backing away from the podium. I was merely explaining our position. We are open to negotiation on this matter. There will be no negotiation, Parker said. You have 72 hours to deliver every human in your territory to the neutral zone at Sigma Draconis. After that, we begin the liberation process. You cannot threaten the Draconian Empire, Krelvis roared. We are a warrior race. We do not bow to ultimatums from lesser species. Lesser species? Parker asked, raising an eyebrow. Ambassador, your empire has existed for 2,000 years. You have conquered hundreds of worlds. You have defeated countless enemies. You consider yourselves the greatest warriors in the galaxy. We are, Krelvis declared proudly. Then explain to me why you need to capture humans to provide entertainment in your arenas. If Draconians are such great warriors, why do you not fight each other for the amusement of your crowds? The question hung in the air like a challenge. Krelvis had no answer because the truth was uncomfortable. Draconians used captured enemies in their arenas precisely because they were too valuable to waste on entertainment. Human prisoners fought and died so that Draconian warriors could live. We use prisoners because it is practical, Krelvis finally admitted. Why waste Draconian blood when enemy blood serves the same purpose? Practical, Parker nodded. I understand. Well, Ambassador, you will find that humans are also very practical. Why negotiate when force serves the same purpose more efficiently? Tilanara quickly stepped between them, sensing that the situation was spiraling out of control. Admiral, Parker, surely we can reach some accommodation. The Draconian Empire is willing to discuss the release of human prisoners in exchange for certain considerations. What considerations? Parker asked. Territory in the Outer Rim, Tilanara suggested. Mining rights in contested systems. Perhaps. A formal alliance agreement. Parker laughed, a sound that made every delegate in the chamber uncomfortable. You think we want territory? You believe we are interested in mining rights? Ambassador, you fundamentally misunderstand what we are fighting for. Then what do you want? Tilanara asked desperately. Our people, Parker said simply. Every human currently held prisoner anywhere in the galaxy, returned alive and unharmed. That is the only thing we want, and it is the only thing we will accept. And if we refuse, Krelvis demanded, then you will share the fate of the Zephyrian Empire, Parker replied. We will hunt down every human prisoner in your territory. We will destroy every facility that has held them. We will eliminate every individual who has profited from their suffering. We will not stop until every human is free, or every one of you is dead. The chamber erupted in chaos. Delegates from dozens of species began shouting at once. Many of them had human prisoners in their territories. The Centauri Federation used human labor in their deep space mining operations. The vegan consortium had been conducting medical experiments on human subjects for decades. The Sirius Collective had entire worlds where humans worked as indentured servants. "You cannot make war on the entire galaxy," shouted Ambassador Plex. 6 months after the first human prisoner was taken from Kepler 442b, the last transport ship arrived at the neutral zone of Harmony Prime. Captain Nick Stevens stood on the observation deck of the U.E.'s Liberty, watching as thousands of humans stepped off alien vessels and onto human ships for the first time in years. Some of the prisoners were barely recognizable as the people they had once been. Decades of forced labor, medical experiments, and psychological torture had left deep scars. But they were alive, and they were free, and they were going home. "Captain," reported Lieutenant Amy Foster from the communications station. That was the final transport from the vegan consortium. All human prisoners had been accounted for. Stevens nodded, feeling a weight lift from his shoulders that he had carried for months. The largest rescue operation in galactic history was finally complete. Over 50,000 humans had been liberated from alien captivity, some who had been prisoners for so long they had almost forgotten their own names. The cost had been staggering. The Zephyrian Empire was extinct, their worlds reduced to lifeless rocks. The Draconian Empire had surrendered after losing their first 3 star systems, but not before 1 billion of their people had died. Dozens of smaller civilizations had simply collapsed when faced with the choice between returning human prisoners and facing human fleets. "Sir," Foster continued, "we are receiving a transmission from the Galactic Council. They are ready to begin the formal ceremony." The ceremony was taking place aboard the neutral station of Harmony Prime, the same location where the emergency council session had been held months before. But the atmosphere was very different now. The fear and confusion had been replaced by resigned acceptance. The galaxy had a new reality to live with. Stevens straightened his uniform and made his way to the transport bay. As the ranking human officer in the sector, he would represent his species at the signing of off, what historians would later call the most important document in galactic history, the Great Chamber of the King. Galactic Council was packed with representatives from every known species. But where once they had sat as equals, now there was a clear hierarchy. The human delegation sat at the center of the chamber, while everyone else arranged themselves in concentric circles around them. Ambassador Tilanara of the Andromedan Collective stood at the central podium, her voice carrying none of the authority it had held during the emergency session. "Delegates of the Galactic Council, we are gathered today to formally establish the Universal Human Protection Accord." The document was displayed on the great screen for all to see. It was written in simple, clear language that left no room for interpretation or loopholes. The core provision was stark in its simplicity. No galactic civilization shall take human prisoners or enslave human populations under any circumstances. The second provision was even more direct. Violation of this decree will result in immediate and total warfare with the human species. Admiral Helen Parker stood to address the assembled delegates. She looked older than she had during the emergency session, worn down by months of coordinating the largest military campaign in galactic history. But her voice was as strong as ever. 6 months ago, the Zephyrian Empire made a simple mistake, she began. They assumed that humans were like every other species in the galaxy. They thought we would negotiate for the return of our people. They believed we would accept reasonable terms and move on with our lives. The chamber was silent, except for the quiet hum of the life support systems. Every delegate knew the story, but hearing it from Admiral Parker gave it a weight that statistics and reports could not convey. They were wrong, Parker continued. Humans do not negotiate with kidnappers. We do not pay ransoms to slavers. We do not make deals with those who steal our families. We fight until every one of our people is free, or until every one of our enemies is dead. There is no middle ground. General Morthic, the last surviving Zephyrian military officer, stood. Slowly, his once proud empire had been reduced to a few refugee ships hiding in the outer rim. He represented a species that had learned the hard way what it meant to make an enemy of humanity. "Admiral Parker," Morthic said, his voice barely. Above a whisper, "My people followed galactic convention. We acted according to established law. How were we supposed to know the humans were different?" "You could have asked," Parker replied simply. "You could have tried diplomacy instead of invasion. You could have treated us as equals instead of prey. But you chose conquest over conversation and slavery over negotiation. The consequences of that choice are written across 17 dead worlds." Ambassador Krelvis of the Draconian Empire shifted uncomfortably in his seat. His people had been lucky. They had surrendered early enough to avoid complete extinction. But they would never forget the sight of human battle fleets reducing their mighty fortress worlds to rubble. The Draconian Empire accepts the terms of the Accord, Krelvis announced formally. "We will never again take human prisoners or enslave human populations." One by one, every species in the galaxy made the same pledge. The Centauri Federation, the Vegan Consortium, the Rigelian Alliance, the Sirius Collective, all of them formally agreed to the Universal Human Protection Accord. But Stevens knew that the document was just paper. The real protection came from the massive human fleet that now patrolled every sector of the galaxy. Humanity had become the dominant military power not through conquest, but through the simple demonstration that they would sacrifice everything to protect their own. "There is one more matter to address," Parker announced. "A question of enforcement. How do we ensure that this accord is honored in the future?" Tilanara looked nervous. "The Galactic Council has always been responsible for monitoring compliance with interspecies agreements. The Galactic Council failed to prevent the enslavement of humans for over a century," Parker pointed out. "Why should we trust them to prevent it in the future? Then what do you propose?" Tilanara asked. Parker activated a holographic display showing the current deployment of human forces. Battle groups were positioned throughout the galaxy, with major fleets stationed near every important star system. "Humanity will monitor compliance ourselves. We will maintain fleets in every sector. We will investigate every report of human captivity, and we will respond to violations with the same speed and efficiency we demonstrated against the Zephyrians." The message was clear. The galaxy now lived under human protection, whether they wanted it or not. Any species that threatened humans would face immediate retaliation. Any civilization that enslaved humans would face extinction. "This is not protection," protested Ambassador Yexelon of the Rigelian Alliance. "This is occupation. You are imposing human rule on the entire galaxy." "No," Parker corrected. "We are imposing human survival on the galaxy. There is a difference, though I understand why you might confuse the two." Stevens stepped forward to address the assembly. As the newest member of the human delegation, his words carried the weight of the younger generation that would inherit this new galactic order. "Representatives of the Galactic Council," he began, "you seem to believe that we wanted this responsibility. You think we chose to become the galaxy's enforcers. You are wrong. We were forced into this role by your actions." He gestured to the human delegation, most of whom bore the scars of the recent war. "Every human in this room has lost friends or family members in the fight to free our people. We did not start this war. We did not choose this conflict. But we finished it, and now we must live with the consequences. For centuries, your species treated humans as a resource to be exploited," Stevens continued. "You captured our people, enslaved our populations, and treated our families like animals in your markets. You created this situation. We are simply adapting to the reality you forced upon us." Ambassador Carol Martinez, the new human representative, to the Galactic Council, rose to deliver the closing statement. She was young for such an important position, but she had earned her place through service in the rescue fleets that had liberated the prisoner camps. The Universal Human Protection Accord is not a treaty between equals, Martinez announced. It is a surrender document. You are surrendering the right to enslave humans. You are surrendering the right to threaten human populations. You are surrendering the right to treat humans as anything other than free and equal beings. She paused to let the words sink in before continuing. In exchange, humanity offers you peace. We will not conquer your worlds unless you threaten ours. We will not destroy your civilizations unless you enslave our people. We will not hunt you down unless you hunt us first. This is the new reality of the galaxy, Martinez concluded. We are not conquerors. We are not an empire. We are simply humans, and we protect our own. Remember this, and there will be peace between us. Forget it, and you will face the same fate as the Zephyrian Empire. The signing ceremony took 3 hours. Every species in the galaxy formally agreed to the Universal Human Protection Accord. The document was encoded in quantum storage and distributed to every inhabited world in known space. But everyone in the chamber knew that the real enforcement mechanism was not the document itself. It was the massive human fleet that now dominated galactic space. It was the memory of 17 worlds reduced to ash. It was the knowledge that humans would never egg.